Hyundai has come up with a revelation of sorts. They, of course, watching their market share, and they've discovered that there's another EV company that's beginning to eat their lunch. And they weren't too concerned about this other company a while ago. An insider told Reuters that the company had no real concern about Tesla in the past, as the Silicon Valley company, in their mind, focused on premium, expensive cars. But since the launch of the Model 3, the threat has become a lot more real. And what they've found is that people are doing, as we call in the industry now, the Tesla stretch, where people are allocating more funds to purchase the Tesla as opposed to getting the regular car that they might have done in the past to get to the aspirational car that they want. So the Hyundai company is noticing that some sales are starting to, they're losing some of that market share that they expected to have. And with that realization, they have decided that they're going to add 2 additional electric car lines that will be used in South Korea to produce electric vehicles. One that will be kicking off at the beginning of next year, and a second one to be in play by 2024. So in their calculation, they don't want to be left out in the cold and not have and lose these customers forever. They want to have the supply of the vehicles ready for consumers to buy their product. And like others who have now started to scramble to produce electric vehicles, they are discovering there are a couple of roadblocks to ramping up production. And of course, one of those items is batteries. And with GM and Volkswagen and others all trying to get battery supply locked down for their vehicles, they're starting to realize that market is a little bit oversaturated, and they're having a tough time getting allocation for batteries for those new lines. So it's something that we've seen brewing for quite a long time, and now the realization is starting to come true for some car companies that, you know what, we might have waited a little bit too long, or we don't have the internal resources to build exactly what we need when we need. We're kind of behind the 8 ball in some of these cases, and that's certainly what this story from Inside EVs kind of points at.
Was there any hint of if they're going to go sort of low to mid market or do like a high-end Genesis EV?
They didn't talk anything about what comes out on the production line, just that it was going to be an EV. And of course, they're not commenting directly about specifics about it. Because this was basically, some of the story was leaked from an insider that was talking to the reporter.
I think they would be very smart to do the Kona and the Niro. Was it the Kia Niro and the Hyundai Kona? Both of them available in EVs right now. They could, since they already have the established vehicles, they could just add lines and they could check those things out. They're very affordable and they are amazingly good.
They're decent cars,
and,
yeah.
And extremely efficient in kilowatts per mile or miles per kilowatt hour or whatever.
Yeah,
you think I would know this, but yeah.
You can do it both ways.
Well, you don't know anything about fuel efficient driving, Tony.
Right.
Well, it just seems like such a textbook case of a large company just thinking, I don't have to pay any attention to what's happening around me.
Right.
They're not going to affect me. And I'm kind of concerned that they may have missed a good window of opportunity.
It's kind of like
Tesla,
Kodak in the 80s.
I was about to say the Kodak
digital
effect,
cameras.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who needs a digital camera? Film always.
Even though they invented it.
Well,
Right.
No, and it's a good move. I just hope it's not a too late move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's, you know, it's never too late. You know,
when
I've
you're
said
out of
this,
business, it's too late.
Well,
Yes.
when you're out of business, but we know they're not out of business right now. But
Right.
you know, it's one of these things that even if they had done something a month ago or 2 months ago, we would still be able to say, I wish they'd done this sooner. So, you know, I feel that it's, you know, only when you're out of business is it too late. The fact that they did have this wake up moment, and then hopefully They have this wake up moment. They add some lines. They start pumping out EVs and they're selling out. Maybe that will cause a wake up moment to the other major manufacturers, Toyota, and start actually making honest to goodness electric vehicles like we know you can and you should have been doing 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
exactly. When Hyundai had the Tucson fuel cell vehicle, we talked about that. This was over a year ago on this show, and at that point we were saying it makes absolutely no sense. Fuel cell vehicles might work
Makes
like if
absolutely
it's
no sense.
as a passenger vehicle, it makes no sense. If you have like a ferry line and it goes from here to there, and you can put fueling stations where you need them because it's on a locked fixed path, great. Maybe like from the warehouse to the dock for a large
Or maybe a transit company.
yeah. So there are a few use cases where it works. Passenger vehicles, if in the US you need 100,000 fueling stations today for gasoline, and why do you think it would need to be any fewer for something like hydrogen fuel? That's what the market has said we need to be convenient for fill-ups. And so that's just an impossible place to start. And so the automakers are just assuming that, oh, fueling is someone else's problem. And unless you have an entire ecosystem, you don't have a product.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how all of these companies that were here and had almost everything solved in the late 90s, Hyundai, General Motors, Toyota, everybody, they all had EVs running around. Ford, Chrysler even had a van.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened, Casey, is
press.
they were not serious because it was just a compliance card to get them by a rule. That's why it's failed, because they were just trying to get by a rule that was implemented by CARB.
There's an entire documentary dedicated to answering that question. And since we mentioned friend of the show, Chelsea Sexton, earlier, she's one of the stars of Who Killed the Electric Car. And it's free on YouTube. Y'all should go check it out.
If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Yes.
But what I'm getting at is it's not like they don't know how to do it. And yes, do watch those. They're great. And read the books.
I'll give you a reason. You may not like it, but I'll give you the reason.
Everybody retire?
No. I mean, look at Tesla. Kudos to Tesla for realizing that if you sell the product and you deploy everything people need for that product, well, except for service, charging network and yada, yada, they get it, right? Tesla got it. Yeah. And that's why there's Tesla owners on this show. Part of the reason is, yeah, I know, really who. Part of that, though, is because of that network, right? Patrick had a Leaf. He could have bought another Nissan. He bought a Tesla for probably multiple reasons. But here's the thing. The car companies, the gas car companies, haven't been making EVs because they don't want to pay for the infrastructure. They've never paid for the infrastructure for ICE cars. They don't pay for gas stations. They don't pay for service stations. They have service stations in their dealerships that make tons of money. Ask Paul about that. But and the government has been completely hands-off for the most part. I mean, our attempts to encourage it have been flaccid and tedious and ineffective compared to other nations. Norway, that have aggressively, Germany, that aggressively, you could get a Renault Zoe in Germany for effectively nothing. Okay, as just a regular person, you can. Because of the subsidies in Germany, because the German government sees that there's an advantage to having more people drive electric. Our government
in cities like London, where you can go into the city center with no toll if you have an EV. Your gas card like $30 just to go into town.
Yeah, and Tesla's only recently become profitable consistently. So how many years were they losing money? And now that was fine for them because they were startup and they were getting capital and investors were willing to take that risk. But if 10 years ago, whoever was in charge of GM at that point said, new change strategy for the next 10 years, we're going to lose money. We're going to stop selling gasoline cars. We're only going to make electric. We're going to build out a great big network of refueling stations.
Building pickup trucks.
Right. Yes. And eventually when the batteries get good enough, we'll start building pickups again. But until then, nope. They would have lost their job that day. So it was just something that there was not even an option for them at that point because they had an existing business that was profitable that they had to maintain. So now the technology has advanced where they can start making these things profitable, and they need to make that change.